Hello, Friday morning. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, don't forget, hit that subscribe button and give the video a little like at the end if you have enjoyed it. Servicing a 160 high track today. It's a 4,000 hour service, so let's crack on. Drivers away today. It's only about 30 hours off a 4,000 hour service. There's a big Tigercat over there, look. That is an absolute animal. He's just tracked it across the road there. It sounds unreal. That is some bit of gear. So yeah, 4,000 hour service. Now, you look at a service schedule or a service plan, whatever you want to call it, for these machines, you'll notice that the hydraulic oil is to change every 2,000 hours. But if you actually read it at the bottom, there's a sort of bullet point and it says if it's been running Doosan genuine oil, then the hydraulic oil is good for 4,000 hours. Now, what would change that is if the machine had been running a hammer a lot, or sort of attachments, etc. You might want to change it a little bit earlier. But it's these machines that are in the forestry doing mounding work, they've only ever got a bucket on, so the hydraulic oil is good to do at 4,000 hours. So what I do is pump it, well, stretch the arm right out, empty the bucket so I've got as much oil back in the tank as possible, and then I'll pump it out with me hand pump, which I've adapted for me drill. Give the drill a bit of a workout, fill up loads of empty 20 litre drums, and then with the 20 litre, once I've filled those and emptied the tank, then I'll pump new oil in, or I'll pour it in, just depends how I feel really. Normally when I'm doing it, the driver's about to kind of hold the pipe as I fill drums up, but today I'll be doing it on my own, so I'll probably just pour all the new oil back into it, but we'll get to that shortly. Right, I'll get the machine set up. I have a feeling what I'll do is probably do the hydraulic oil first, get that job done and out the way, and then yeah, all the filters will be to change on this today, apart from the AdBlue filter. The AdBlue filter will get done on the next service, because it's every 1,500 hours, so it'll be done at 1,500, 3,000, yeah, 4.5. So all the filters apart from the AdBlue today. Makes my 160 high track look like a toy, that thing. Just been having a look around it and a chat with the fellas there. That thing's done 30,000 hours, and they're about to put a new engine in it, or a reconditioned engine, because the head gasket's away on it or something. It's got a Mercedes engine in it, but God, when you look at the undercarriage on that thing over there compared to this, God almighty. That's a savage bit of gear, that, like. Anyway, I'm pleased I'm doing this rather than that. Anyway, that sounds like a big job, especially for a Friday. Hell, fire. Right, we'll get on with this. So I'm ready now to start filling my empty drums. Got my pump in, and I'll just turn that using the drill. Got the suction filter out. I'll be replacing that. I've had a good look over it and it's clean. There's no bits of metal or chunks are out in there, so that's a good sign. So yeah, normally you get about 120, 130 litres or so out. I've got plenty of empty drums, so shouldn't be any trouble. Get a start. that's all the oil out the tank. We've got how many down there? 4 full ones down there, full one there, and this one is, where's that one at? It's about just over half full, so what's that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 80, 100 and about 115 litres. Got 140, 160 litres on the tank, on the van, so I've got plenty of oil to replace it with. That's it there. So what I do is I put the, obviously key is to keep everything as clean as possible, because you don't want to add contaminants to it. Also, once I've finished manoeuvring the machine to where I want it, I'll let it sit for about 10-15 minutes just in case there is any sediment in the hydraulic oil, it settles to the bottom. Because when you pull the suction filter off, you'll probably get a gulp going in to the suction pipe. So I've just let everything settle, and if I look down in there, if you look right down there, you can see that like a ring pull off a drum of oil. So it's a good job it's a good job I did let it settle, because there is a chance that when you pull the suction filter out, that thing gulps down into there. So just what I've always been told to do. Like I say, the filling the drums, normally what I do if there's somebody here is I'll put that pipe over the side and just load the drums from the floor, and whoever's down there just swaps the pipe from drum to drum to drum, and it's quite quick. That hasn't been too bad. There's a little bit of sort of up and downy just getting all the drums up to us, but it certainly beats parking the machine cross carriage, taking the belly plate off the bottom of the tank, and there is a bung that you can unscrew to let all the oil out, but it's just you've got so much more chance of making a blooming mess, especially when you're out in the countryside. We don't want any oil slicks. So yeah, I've got some long pincer doodads. I'll grab that blooming bit of plastic out of there. Goodness me, please I spotted that. So what I'll do is I'll fill the tank up, I'll crack the bleed screw off the top of the pump, and the weight of the oil should push any air, if there is any air. I don't think there will be, like I say, but if there is any air in the system, it'll push it all through and out the top of the bleed screw on top of the pump, and then we're not going to get a gulp of air on the pump and have the pump run dry for a couple of minutes and cavitate. So that's what I'm at now. So I've got this, it's like a magnet, and it's got like a gripper on the bottom. It's grand for if you drop something down on the belly plate, you can grab it even if it's not magnetic, so that's a good job. I've got this out, it feels quite soft, so it feels as though it's maybe been in there quite a while. So there's definitely not off on my drums there. See if I recognise it. This is a new drum, but see the thickness of that plastic isn't the same, so it can't have been off one of my drums. Anyway, no harm done. We've got it out. Pour some oil in now. I've just pulled the ring, what they're called, like locking rings off the top of the lids. Yeah, if I put that next to there, you can see the profile's different, but also it's off a narrower neck drum as well, because it sits on top. So pleased it wasn't one of my drums anyway. It wasn't me. He has that top pipe on there. I know that blew off. It was between, I came to this machine and did the knock sensor on it. If you remember, I was at the NH3 sensor. I think it was NH3 sensor. And then this is the same one we put the slew motor into before Christmas. And we also, back in November, put a new travel motor on it as well. So I'm sure he was saying between one of those 3 jobs, he'd lost a bit of oil when that pipe up there went, so I can only assume he's clapped that in there itself by mistake. That's when I reckon it's happened anyway. Anyway, I've got my first 20 litres in. I'm just going to stack up the rest of the oil to pour into it. And I'm not up and down these tracks and steps carrying drums of oil. I think this might be the first time I've done a full 4,000 hour service on the channel. I felt like I did loads the year before. Well, the year before I started doing these YouTube videos. So yeah, this is the first one I've done in about 18 months. But I'll show you this suction filter because we don't see it very often. So that sits on the bottom of the tank. In the bottom of the tank, you've got like a raised profile by about that much. So the suction filter sort of sits over the top of that. You've got this pole here that sticks up, and then there's a spring that sits on the top of that, and the lid of the hydraulic tank pushes down on it, and that's what keeps that suction filter in place. Now, there was a job that I did last year where I replaced the suction pipe on 140 LCR, and I know a lot of you were saying about some sort of a vacuum pump to create a vacuum on the tank while I replaced the pipe, and somebody was asking what I used to stop all the oil coming out of the tank. You used to be able to get a blanking plate, so what you'd do is you'd take the suction filter out and then screw on like another suction filter, but it didn't have it was like a solid piece, which stopped the oil going through, obviously, and that keeps all the oil in the tank. You only lose what's in the suction filter. And I'm sure when I started with Gordon's, I wanted one, and we ordered it, and I don't know whether it was availability at the time. I couldn't get one, but yeah, I haven't got one. So what you can do, and this is going to sound a bit dodgy, but if you get a good quality plastic bag, wrap the plastic bag, put that inside a plastic bag, cable tie it, and then put your hand up through it so you're not going to puncture the bag when you sit it down over the sleeve. That also works just as well, but it's a little bit dodgy like, in it. There is a chance you could lose a bit of plastic bag, but not if you use a good quality one. That's worked for me in the past anyway, so top tip. So basically, the bleed point on this particular pump is the highest point, which is this pipe here. So what I'm going to do is crack that pipe off. Might make a little bit of a mess, but I'd sooner make a little bit of a mess than damage a hydraulic pump. So I'll crack that pipe off and just wait till we've got oil coming out and no bubbles. So I've not made too much of a mess, but I've got the oil coming through. There was a little bit of air, but I'm sure if I started it, it would have been absolutely fine, but better to be safe than sorry. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start it, let it run at low idle for a couple of minutes, cycle the hydraulics and check the level, because believe it or not, the level at the minute is just above full, which I'll be honest with you, I'm not too worried about. I'll show you. See on the glass there, it's just above full. But work this one out. I've put 5 20s in it, 5 full 20s in it, and it's just above full. And I got, what did I say? I got about 5 2/3 of it. 5 2/3 out of it, so work that one out. So yeah, I'm sure once it's started and ran, everything like that, we'll get a little bit more into it if we need to. But it's not, especially for this kind of work, it's not the end of the world if you're running it just over that top red mark, because a lot of the work that these machines are doing is just on the floor rather than deep excavations. So a little bit more oil in there keeps the hydraulic oil system a bit cooler, because obviously there's more of it. Right, there's no nasty noises. Just check that I've made nothing leaking. Bet that oil level's gone down now that it's running. Yeah, so it's now sort of between the two red markers. I know it's a bad bit to see from outside, but when you're sat in the cab, that level, you can't see it at the minute, but that level glass is nice and easy to see from the cab. So I've just cycled all the functions at a sort of low idle, 1200 RPM. Cycled them all half a dozen times, make sure everything works and nothing's gurgling or grumbling. It's good. We can check the level again now and add if we need to. So let's have a look. Is it on the glass? What you always need to remember to do is equalise the tank, because that return filter area will be, if I took the lid off that, the oil would pour out of here just now, because it's a pressurised tank, so we need to equalise the tank. There we go. And then we can have a look at this level. Yeah, so it's now between the two red, oh, you can't see it. It's now between the two red markers. Maybe just slightly low now. That would normally be fine, but I am going to just top it up a bit more. It's always better when you're doing levels to have everything at the top end of the levels, like, so yeah. I've just topped up the oil level through the return filter side, because I thought, well, I'm going to need to change it anyway. So I've just jammed a bolt underneath the breather, so as I pour it in, like I say, the oil in the tank will equalise. The oil level is about 5mm above the red mark, which will be absolutely grand. So it will. Put all this back in now. I think because it's been a pretty service heavy week, and you've seen me service these plenty, I'll put you on a time lapse for the rest of it now. We'll get our heads down and get this finished off. So the service is just about complete. When I was doing that time lapse, my phone battery died, so you haven't seen much of it really, but I mean, I can imagine you've seen enough servicing for 1 week. But what I've done, I've left this filter head off, because while you're servicing, you're kind of looking at bits and pieces while you're working away, and some things you spot and you notice and you can rectify it. This is probably about a week away from a low rail pressure fault, because if I'd have just spun the filter off and spun a new filter on, the build-up of debris in there wouldn't have been removed, and in a week's time I'd have had a call out for a breakdown, and that would have been the fault. So I'm just going to clean this filter head out. I've only got this filter to put back on it, then we can bleed the fuel system and fire it up and get packed up. Look, oil sat ready to go in the van, so I'll do that now. Right, we're packed up, machine's running. I'll put the bucket back on it and clear off. It's just after lunch now, so I'll have my lunch here warm up a bit, dry up a bit, and head back to the yard. I'll have all that oil to chuck out into the waste oil and van to empty, and then it's going to get a right good wash because it's been over a fortnight now since I've washed it, so I'll have time this afternoon to do that. So what I'll do is I'll leave the video there for today, because I can well imagine if this video isn't in Friday's video, then I'll edit this up to be a separate video and I'll drop it out over the weekend. So yeah, if you're watching this on the weekend, enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you're watching this on Friday night, enjoy the weekend. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button, and if you enjoyed the video, let me know by giving it a thumbs up and hit that like button. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.